If you're looking to set some new financial New Year's resolutions, I'm talking ones that you can actually keep here. Listen up. Joining me now with tips on how to set and achieve those financial goals for 2025, we've got Jordan Grumet, who is the host of the Earn Invest podcast and author of the upcoming book, The Purpose Code: How to Unlock Meaning, Maximize Happiness, and Leave a Lasting Legacy here. Great to have you here in studio with us, Jordan.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So let's dive into this. Just on setting goals that you can keep and that are attainable, what is the first step that you could really take to lay this out?
Well, I think the problem is a lot of times we use financial goals and that's how we start goal setting, but I think we have to think about purpose first.
Okay.
And I think if we think about purpose first, we can then reverse engineer our finances, and it leads to greater happiness and specifically a greater sense of control over the outcomes.
Certainly. So what are some attainable financial goals once you've figured out the purpose and why you're doing them?
So I think we have to start with the why.
Okay.
And the reason why is purpose is abundant. There are a million things we could enjoy doing, but money isn't always abundant. Sometimes it's scarce. And so we got to think about, in times of scarcity, when we don't have as much money, what are the other tools we can use? How can we use our relationships, our connections, our youth, our knowledge to develop a life of purpose? And then when money is available, we need to go ahead and use that money to live that life of purpose. So it's all about what's important to us. What is that tool of money supposed to actually do for us?
Certainly. So then once you've been able to identify the why, perhaps maybe even set the goal, what about coming back and checking in on how you're doing and measuring up against those goals over an extended period of time too?
This is where the magic happens. Because once you know your why, then you can start looking at your financial goals. And so some of us who are really lucky can integrate our why into our jobs. And so we might not need as big financial goals because we're fulfilling a sense of purpose in our job, and we can slowly accumulate money. We're not worried about retirement because we love what we're doing. On the other hand, there are people who don't like their job. And so they have a few choices. One is they can build purpose into that job, but if they feel like they can't do it, then they might want to be more aggressive with their financial goals. Maybe you really want to max out that 401k. Maybe you really want to save some extra in your account. That's what we're really talking about doing, is trying to figure out what does purpose look like in your life and then building that financial framework around it.
Certainly. When you think about finding purpose, how do you make sure that you are also finding purpose in your career?
Well, here's the thing. I always tell people you don't find purpose, you actually build or create it. But we do need to know these inklings, these beckonings, these things that are important to us, and then we can build a life of purpose around it. So the question is, what lights you up? And when it comes to career, what I love to do is use something I call the art of subtraction. So I tell people, take your job and write out the 15 or 20 things, your roles, your responsibilities, and then take a pencil, a really sharp pencil, and just start scratching out everything you don't like or that doesn't fill you up. Now, most people, when they do that, will have one or two things left over. But those are the things that feel purposeful. So we can look at 2025 and say, well, I'm not going to leave my job. And I'm not going to say I'm going to go find a job that brings me passion, because we all know not everyone can do that. But how can you maximize those things, the two things you really love in 2025? A great example. So let's say you work at a restaurant. And you don't like being behind the counter, helping people isn't your thing, but every Wednesday morning you stock the stock room for 2 hours and you love that. Well, if that's the thing that you've found from the art of subtraction, maybe Lucy, who also stocks the stock room on Monday and Wednesday and hates it, but loves being at the front counter, maybe you can switch places with her and convince your boss that, hey, I'm going to do this Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. You've tripled the amount of time that you're doing something you like and reduced the amount of time you're doing something you don't like. And in a sense, that's winning the game.
Jordan, we got about 30 seconds left here. How many financial goals should you set?
I think we should be really simple and set 2 or 3 basic goals. And I think they should be very purposeful. I think we should decide how the finances are going to support the purpose and the happiness.
Jordan, great to have you here on set with us. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.